beyond all doubt. Proclaim now the highest wisdom, the prajna paramita. Kate, kate, ara kate, ara sangate, bodhisvaha. Kate, kate, ara kate, ara sangate, bodhisvaha. Kate, kate, ara kate, ara sangate, bodhisvaha. Dhammaha prajna paramita Hridaya sutra. Okay, I now unmuted everybody. So yeah, so let's just take a minute. It was pointed out to me, some of you are tuning in from far away and we haven't seen you in a long time, and it's just good to see people and talk to you. And it's just rude to just go right into a discussion of the Heart Sutra and then click and it's all over. And I want to be respectful of everybody's time. And also the fact that some people will want to really check in and some people will want to just kind of talk about the Heart Sutra. So just to give you an opportunity, we'll just go down my list here of the people who are here. If you just want to say hi, who you are. Some of you we haven't seen in a while. I've seen a Deji. And anything you want to say to check in or something about the Heart Sutra, and then we'll just go through the list. So the first on my list is Oche, probably because his name starts with A on this. So Oche, I say
hello. Everything's good here at the temple, and just thank you to everyone who's been joining for daily practice, which has really kept me going and helped us to keep the routine. So it's just grateful. I'm just grateful to be here with all of you.
Oh, the next on my list is Jogam.
Hello, hello. It's been far, far too long. I should have done this a lot sooner. The last number of weeks have been challenging. My wife and I are both addressing the COVID situation in our professional lives in different ways, but it's been very, very much a part of our life. As going through the Heart Sutra, it deeply resonated. I've been reading Life, of course, and in dealing with right view, there are a lot of common threads in reading through right view, and especially around not clinging, which is something that it's very, very hard to remember in times like this. And I've noticed lately that I haven't been as skillful in dealing with the stresses and the strains, professionally and personally. And that makes perfect sense when you view natural to cling in times like these. And so there's certainly times of stress and strain that are not quite as severe as this, but I find that one of the things that's made it harder is not being able to connect with all of the wonderful people in the temple. That has been very hard. It just, when it's gone, you realize how much it fills your gas tank. And so anyway, on that downer of a note, I just wanted to say I'm grateful for having everybody in my life, even if we're doing it digitally. It means a great deal. So many thanks to everyone.
Thank you. Yeah, the next on my list is Moja. Hi, Moja. You're in my
Hi.
bottom right corner. Good to see you.
You too. So I'm Moja. I was a member of the temple years ago, 5 years ago or so, and I moved and had some kids and trying to find my way back. So we've been at the temple for the children's service this year. And then of course now can't be. So I just connected with Noara to try to connect back in any way with service, feeling a deep need to feel connected to everyone there. So thank you, Noara, for helping me get connected, and thank you all to just the invitation for this. I think is super helpful, particularly at this point.
Great. So the next on my list, let's see, is, I was going to say, it says Lori Lucero, but I have a feeling is that Nadeji's address?
It is Nadeji. Lori is just my institutional alias here in Pueblo, Colorado, with the CSU Pueblo, where I'm teaching. It's so very fine to see everyone's faces. I've felt bereft for the last 3 years in multiple ways, but in this emptiness that we are in right now, in particular, we are centered in emptiness. So the Heart Sutra is very real and resonating for me. So I'm just happy to see your faces and feel grateful.
It's so good to see you. You made me cry. Samsu, you're my next.
Hi, it is so good to see everybody's faces. It really is, like, it's very colorful. I'm just really happy to see you this morning. This is like the biggest group I've been with in 4 weeks, and so it's just nice to see everybody. With the Heart Sutra, I think this morning, therefore, his mind is clear of any delusive hindrance kind of stood out and resonated for me, because I think I have a lot of hindrances. So, but I'm just really pleased to see your faces.
Yeah, good to see you. Let's see. Let's go to Sanban next. Good morning, Sanban.
Good morning. So I just wanted to thank everyone, Oche and Subaha and Noara, who are keeping everything going. The sittings with Oche and Subaha have been my anchor and my lantern through all of this. So a special thank you to them. And I agree that the part that also stood out to me, along with Samsu, is therefore his mind is clear of any delusive hindrance. Just thinking about all of the things we cling to that hinder us, and that we should hold on to nothing. Thank you.
Nice, thank you. Soju, David.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to see everybody. Going what others have said, just seeing everybody here and being able to participate in this is really helping me through all of this. And I am, look forward to hear other people's, and like everybody, struggling with trying to let go, and then still what needs to happen just to be part of society. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. Thank you.
Konghae. And I think I saw a little bit of Sanum in there for a little bit. Yeah, right, exactly. Oh, he's doing a gakta, right? We have the, yeah.
Yeah, well, hello everyone. It's great to see you all and hear from you. I miss being there, and I really also appreciate these, ways we're adapting to this hard time. And I think what stuck out to me in the Heart Sutra is the idea of non-duality, and because I'm trying to find the silver linings in all this, um, and there's so much terrible loss and hardship going on. But I feel like the creativity and resilience is real as well. And so just trying to sit with both aspects of what's happening now.
That's Sami. Hello, Sami.
Hello. I'm Sami, otherwise known as Pat Benjamin, and I'm doing fine, just hanging out at home and looking forward to working in the garden and getting some projects done that I hadn't gotten done. And although I haven't been able to get myself up in time for the 6 o'clock sitting, I participate starting at 6:30 or 6:45, so I'm with you in spirit, but haven't actually gotten up yet to do the very early one.
Yeah.
But the thing that resonated with me with the Heart Sutra was the line of "For there is nothing to attain," because I'm sitting here in the 3rd or 4th week. I've even lost count of being at home and just trying to stay out of the way and not cause problems out in society. But once in a while, I think, while I'm looking for things to do and I'm saying, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Finally, I realized that this is like the perfect opportunity to be sort of on retreat and just sort of be, that there's nothing to attain really. And this kind of highlights that for me. So, so here I am, and glad to see everybody and be able to participate in this. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about emptiness.
There you go. Thank you, Sami. Yeah, Natalie, hi.
Hi. I'm glad to be here. And oh yeah, handling the sheltering in place. Okay, I always say, much evaluation of whether it's worthwhile going out. Is this worthwhile going out for? Can we make it be okay? Well, maybe we should. Okay, they have old people hours at the grocery store at 8 o'clock. Let's go there. And so, yeah, it's and being retired anyhow is kind of hanging out at home in the first place. So, and then it's like, and then how much news do you want to take in, because there is a lot of pain. Yeah. Controlling that.
Yeah.
In the Heart Sutra, I'm not that deep into it as everybody else. So one thing that struck me about it this Easter time is just the 4th line, the Bodhisattva delivered all beings from their suffering. Well, as we have Jesus delivering people from their sins. But it's the same, because you have to come to an understanding of it. It's like an event that happened or whatever, but people have to come to it and figure it out. And how does it apply? So that's it.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for pointing out our first livelihood guideline of pause, breathe, listen, right, is coming in handy these days. Yeah, exactly. Nalanda, good to see you again.
Good to see you, and good to be back, and good to see my Na sister.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, I've been away for many years, but I've been keeping up with my personal practice, and I just wanted to reconnect. And so this was a great opportunity to reconnect with everybody. It's so great to see familiar and new faces, and I hope to be able to join in more. And I'm glad you said, Noara, that you're recording. Is that correct?
Yes.
You're
Yeah,
recording?
I think so. I sometimes I've learned that sometimes I think I am and I'm not, and sometimes
Okay.
I'm not and I am. But yeah, it should be
I'm
going.
gonna have to slip out in a little bit just to get ready for a family Zoom for Easter. So, but I wanted to stay here as long as I can and just
Right.
be present with you all.
Yeah, it's so good to see you. Yeah. Soyuk, I see you. How are you?
Hello, everyone. Hi. My name is Soyak, and I'm just happy to be here. Thank you. This has been a time actually that my practice has sort of expanded a bit. I look forward every morning now to meeting Nora and Jayoon on Insight Timer. Yeah, so it's been really great. Not having to rush out the door and get my kid ready with breakfast and get her to school and things has actually allowed my practice to, I'm sitting more, doing more prostrations, I'm doing all of that. So things are okay for me. This is my first time kind of doing a dive into one of the sutras, so I'm just kind of here to learn a little bit from you all. And yeah, it's really cool to see you, so thank you.
Hey, Kosa up there. Hi.
My sort of line is I'm doing as well as can be expected and better than I deserve. I am not handling things as well as I had hoped I might. I've been, in general, very disappointed at how things that I've developed over the years have just all shifted, drizzled away, and I've been responding in infantile and ignorant ways. You know, like screaming and cursing at my computer. Not that it doesn't deserve it.
None of us do that, by the way.
Yeah, right, exactly.
You know, I really haven't done it for years, and I'm having anger and hostility and resentment, and I just am not used to that. That's I thought I'd gotten past that. Anyway, I'm finding the Heart Sutra. You know, I think I get part of it, and then I'm 4 lines down, and it goes in an entirely different direction for me. So that it's puzzling.
Yeah. that's I think that's a good description of it. Yeah, Sushin Bob and Jayoon, you'll notice you're going last because then you're going to just segue right into telling us all about emptiness.
Okay.
So you're on deck. But Sushin Bob.
Good morning.
And this guy too, yeah,
Oh.
and us, yeah.
I'm doing okay. It's you know, I feel like a lot of us are being asked to be flexible in ways we never really even envision what flexibility is. And I think that's kind of what the Heart Sutra is it challenges us to look at things in ways that, you know, even the core teachings of Buddhism, to look at them in ways that we never would have looked at them. It challenges the notion of looking and at them and them. So it's all that. So, you know, yesterday I went to work. I at the radio station where I do news on Saturdays, and it was just, I usually really like that job, and it's so hard to just, I was wearing gloves and a mask the whole time and being really careful because people are there, you know, and so it's a job I like that it instead was like this source of stress, and then and then there's just doing the job itself, and then going to the grocery store and watching all the social distancing happening and not happening. I really enjoy grocery shopping. And it made it into such a stressful thing that those experiences, I woke up today with a good night's sleep, you know, sufficient in terms of number of hours. And I was tired, you know, I don't feel quite so tired now, but I just think we're being challenged in ways, or I'm being personal, you know, experiences challenged in these ways that you didn't ever even think could be challenging. So, but it is great to be connecting with everybody. It's been really helpful.
Well said. That's a point that we'll check in, and then Jayoon, you're next. But Yeah, Gotcha, do you want to?
Sure. So the last few days when I've done check-ins like this, I said, oh, we reached a point, you know, sometime last week when the novelty of all this had worn off. Okay. And, you know, we've gotten into kind of, for me anyway, the rut of the same old of being, you know, here. And then,
with me.
and then I heard the Heart Sutra this morning,
Mm.
and I realized that I had fallen into a place a couple of days ago of attachment. I'd actually fallen into attachment to this way of being. And then it also occurred to me this morning that this is a real chance to learn how we, well, we're like fish, okay? And, you know, fish, you know, feel their way through the water through these lateral things that are sensitive to the pressure. And we're used to doing that with people around. So how do we have the same kind of connection online? Okay. So this is, you know, the new learning that's invited right here. And that kind of excites me now. And that's where I'm at.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I wasn't expecting to start sobbing. But I miss you and I miss the temple. And I think practice is this really beautiful opening into the depth and hugeness of what's happening right now. And I think we can all get, like Sushim said, you know, I think a lot of us are dealing with our workplace being, or our home lives totally transformed. It feels like Humpty Dumpty fell and we've got to like rush to get all the pieces glued back on, and we can get really wrapped up in that. And how do I teach my class online? How do I cover X and Y and Z? And how do I get all this stuff done? And then behind all of it, and I think especially the resonance, thank you, Natalie, for mentioning Easter, for those of us who were raised in that tradition, or Passover, you know, that this is really, it's just huge energy. And really, I think we're getting in touch with the boundlessness and the depth and the vast and infinite, which is what I used in the e-blast that we'll be sending out soon. And so to really, I think, just use our practice, right, as the thread through the labyrinth to sort of enter and sink into it, and just really, you know, appreciate each other, appreciate the small things. The On Being interview this morning, I don't know if any of you listened to it. It's also a podcast, and she's wonderful. And the guy she was interviewing today was talking about, he's this great Benedictine from Austria, and he was talking about how, he was talking about gratefulness, because he says gratitude is kind of a worn out word, but gratefulness, and that a fountain only comes alive when it overflows. And so many of us spend our time trying to make the bowl of the fountain bigger and bigger and bigger. And he pointed out, if you do that, it never overflows. And that overflowing is gratitude, right? And so that the small bowl overflows and comes alive.
Well, he said that advertising is pushing us to make the fountain bigger and bigger.
Right. Yeah. But I think he also was saying that we tend to just think that way, right? We think in terms of quantity and not quality. And Gakta sort of said, what do you mean? And I said, look, you know, before all this happened, I would eat out a lot, way too much. And 2 weeks ago, like I went down the street and got a hamburger and fries, and it was the best thing I'd ever tasted. And because my bowl was so much smaller. So I think that's also, you know, this opportunity to just really increase our gratitude, our gratefulness practice. But yeah, well taken. So that's but you're all making me cry. So so I'm going to turn it over to Jayun, who's going to tell us all about emptiness. And first, you're going to check in. How you doing, sweetie?
I'm doing okay. Yeah, I'm doing okay. I've said to a couple of friends in past weeks that this really reminds me a bit of my time in Uzbekistan when I was in Peace Corps. Now that was a choice, But the entire time I was over there, we didn't know if we would be staying in that country or not. And then once we did leave, we had no idea where in the world literally we would be going next. So there was all that turmoil and going around. And so it feels similar to that. Just there's constant change, and I just kind of, I don't know, float like a cork right now. When the changes were first all happening, I did get really pissed off and angry, and I shut down for 2 days, and that helped. No news, no talking with friends other than text. I didn't want, and then I knew I just had to get past that, and I would be fine, and I did, and now I'm okay. And changes are still happening. I hadn't been to the grocery store in 2 weeks, and I just stepped in there yesterday at my Mariano's, and they now limit the number of people who can go in, and you have to stand in line to wait to even get a cart, and then they'll hand you a cart and go. And I'm like, okay, I'll do this Monday when more people are likely to be at work or home or something. So that's just that. I also live by myself, so there's nobody to argue with. So that might help.
Or hurt. Yeah.
And I'm not lonely. Yeah. So pretty good for somebody who suffers from depression, I think. So yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to go into emptiness, since I have to, just talk about what struck me about the Heart Sutra. And I looked into this. This will be short. It's like 5 minutes, and I will talk slower. I'll do my librarian voice. So and I'm going to read. I wrote it all out. So I'm going to start here with something I sort of understand. It probably isn't correct, but it's a place to start. We are trying to interpret the world, trying to understand it, make sense of it. We use our eyes and ears to see and hear what we can, and we use our minds to interpret that information. And our minds are shaped by experiences we have each had, as well as the anatomy of the brain itself. The thing is, we can't ever know the whole story. None of us interpret or experience things the same way. We can't even see more than the visible spectrum of light. We can only hear a portion of sound. And each of us have our own physical limitations with that. And so we each experience things differently. And then on a wider scale, there are agreed upon social norms. And these are meant to be used as ways to help each of us understand our place in the world. Meant to. And political structures are meant to help our corners of the world interact and interpret things from other parts of the world. But really, this is all bullshit. None of this is permanent. None of this is real. There isn't anything to hold on to. Nothing to say that this is true and this is real. So the Heart Sutra is saying this sort of thing when it talks about emptiness. That at first glance is kind of nebulous. Red Pine says that emptiness means indivisibility, and that, I'm going to mispronounce this, Avalokiteshvara is referring to the emptiness of self-existence. Red Pine says that the logic here is form or any other entity of the mind is defined by the mind, and so exists only because we claim it exists. And so the Heart Sutra says that emptiness is form. This seems to mean that we try to divide reality up into parts, but there really are no parts. An example would be, one thought cannot exist without other thoughts. They flow into each other without separation. It's like the talk that Achala gave about clouds. We like to think we can see an edge to the cloud, but when we look closer, we see that we cannot determine where that edge is. Nothing exists by itself. It can only be defined in terms of other entities and in terms of time, space, and mind. Nothing exists by itself. We are one. There is no division. And here is where I become wobbly and start to falter. And so I turned then to an article from Tricycle that Sai shared on the temple's Facebook page. I don't remember the title of it at the moment, but I can share a link later. And there are 3 or 4 quotes from that article that seems to help sum up what emptiness is in a more plain language. And the first one is, emptiness means that things do not exist as they seem, but are like illusions and like dreams. They do not have a nature or a findable core of their own. And the second one is, the Heart Sutra seems to say about emptiness that no matter what we do, no matter what we say, and no matter what we feel, we need not believe any of it. There is nothing whatsoever to hold on to, and even that is not sure. And this bit calls to mind what Sansu and I have taken to asking each other after retreats. One of us will say, "How was retreat?" The other replies, "Adjectives, adjectives." And you? And the first will say, "Yes, adjectives," meaning it was beyond words. It seems to be part of what emptiness means. And then emptiness points to the most radical transformation of our entire outlook with regard to ourselves and the world. Emptiness not only means the end of the world as we know it, but that this world never really existed in the first place. And this reminds me of a conversation I had with my dad back in college. He told me that when he was growing up, he felt tremendous societal pressure to reach certain benchmarks like career, family, and children by certain ages. And if he didn't reach them, then he would have felt like a failure. And he never wanted my brother and I to feel that pressure. And so he and my mom purposefully raised us as best they could without putting those pressures on us. So he was taught one view of the world and wished to teach his children a different view. I'm not sure if that's a great example, but I'm sure others will have ones of their own that might come to mind. And then number 4, I don't have a quote for this part, but the authors of that article suggested that the Heart Sutra can be used as a template for personal koans. No eyes can be meditated upon. What's that like? No ears can be contemplated. What would you do if you couldn't hear? And then one could put their own thing in the same format. So no touch. I'm a hugger. How will that be changed when we gather in groups again? Will it be changed? No partner. It's been 20 years since my last relationship and all the thoughts and things that go with that. And you can put anything you like in there. And then I was talking with my mom about emptiness, and she asked, what is the difference between emptiness and nothingness? I was unable to articulate that, so I asked a very good Dharma friend of mine, and they said that nothingness is a part of emptiness, but emptiness is not a part of nothingness. So another koan, you know. And I told her the definition I found for emptiness, which is emptiness means indivisibility. And she said that definition makes sense to her. And then she said that maybe we should choose another word to describe this concept, that the word emptiness itself seems to have been chosen specifically to encourage discussion, to create confusion, to make thinking about this concept unstable. And maybe that is the point. And so this is where I leave you.
Well, I'm just super happy I pushed record because that was awesome. Yeah, any thoughts? That was fantastic. Any thoughts or contributions or?
So I think one way to look at this is that it's there aren't any separate things, plus the words and descriptions are never complete, never true. They can be useful, they can be part true, they're not completely true. And you know, that's all stuff which I can get with my rational mind, and I'm very happy with that.
Mhm. Yeah. We're walking around.
Well said. Well said. Adjective. I sit with it a little while, but that idea, you talk when talking about reality and what reality is, it's really good to sit with now, because we're carrying into this experience so many expectations, and I see myself really projecting forward and wanting next week or the week after or next month, and to acknowledge those imaginings are not real, can bring me back to the present moment. And it's actually kind of comforting to think that these difficult experiences that I have at any time during the day, I can reshape and reimagine what that experience is, and reframe it, to move out of suffering.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if Jayan, would you be willing to make that available? You said you wrote it out. You available to us in text form for future reference? I thought it.
Yeah, I can email it.
So many amazing points, so well written.
Oh, thanks.
And well, executed, that it was so clear about something that's challenging. So it would be nice to have that to refer to.
Okay.
And it was
Yeah,
also so, to use one of Sunam's favorite adjectives, it was also so sincere, and it came from the heart, which you can get kind of very in your head about emptiness, which is exactly what the Heart Sutra is about, is coming from here to here, right? So I
Yeah.
read that beautifully. Yeah.
And I struggled with that in the beginning of the week. I'm like, okay, there's all this philosophical stuff, but where's the practical part of this?
Mm-hmm.
How do you actually do something? And so that's what I searched for. Yeah.
Yeah, last night Jayun and I actually were watching in separate locations this concert. This artist Rob Fetters, who is Buddhist, he's been doing weekly concerts, and you could tell he'd had a rough week because he'd lost, the loss of John Prine, and the visual artist that did album cover work, and he was just kind of channeling all that energy into his playing and singing. It was so noticeable, the sincerity there. But he said at one point that isn't suffering. Isn't that what art is? You're just taking the suffering and forming it into something else, something beautiful. Maybe is one adjective, but so yeah, that makes me think of no suffering. Like, where was the suffering then to begin with? But it also doesn't totally alleviate all suffering in the future, because that process has happened. So that seemed to kind of resonate.
And thank you again, Jayun, for that, and I really liked your image of the hugs, and I think and for me philosophically, the part about form is empty, that's kind of easy, the unreality of everything, but then the emptiness being form, and especially in this time of so much death and suffering, that all these things that are sad or profoundly meaningful to us, that it's not that they're unreal, it's just that we have to really experience those things very deeply in order to enter into reality. So it's not a leaning, for me, it's not a leaning away from anything. It's a leaning into or embracing fully into, like, I think I like how you said it's not just seeing one aspect of something, but in seeing the aspect you see the whole, and in the whole you see the aspects. So thank you. I thought you did a really lovely job. I very much appreciate it. Thank you, Jay.
Yeah, and what you just said, Oche, just reminds me of last week's discussion on the Bodhisattva of great compassion, right? So once again, that all of this is under the umbrella of compassion and not like, oh, well, it's all just empty, so who cares? That it's actually, you know, that she's kind of the voice that's saying this, that this is the way to compassion rather than pulling away from it. So I just wanted to, you know, refer to Sanbon's great, yeah.
I just wanted to thank you for bringing it really down to earth. I mean, this is a very tough concept, and to bring it to the level of how you experience it in your own humanity and your own vulnerabilities is sort of the way to being sincere about trying to understand cones and riddles and things that are just very abstract, and they have so many different layers of meaning. So I think we have to start with where we're at and be very honest about that, and go back and forth between what's in what Buddhism says, but we really have to face our own truths, good, bad, or indifferent. And I just appreciate so genuine about that.
The, you know, not profound, not deep, but boy, talking about how we're gonna, how hugging will be different when it's over. Just like more. That will be a fine thing.
I think they'll be dancing in the streets and like.
I hope so.
I mean, such a new appreciation for each other we have to have now, because we can't have each other like we used to.
That's right. I told Oche that in a kind of different conversation, but I can share with you all, you know, it's very much my intention when the temple reopens, you know, to have a ceremonial reopening in a way, right? And have some Gito chanting and some meditation to honor just the enormity of what's happened and what is happening. And, but also there will be tea and treats and what have you, you know, like to have an impromptu Sangha day.
And hugs. And hugs.
Exactly, that's right. And respect for people who are just not there yet. Yeah.
Yes. Right. Yes.
Because we don't, because some people it's going to take a while, right? And everybody's coming from different situations. So
yeah, for you know, I've come to realize just throughout our meeting that, you know, one's own identity is being challenged, and like for me, you know, my role at the temple is we're not there, so I don't get to do the thing I do, and it's challenges me is like, well, you know, who am I if I can't do those things? And so, but I think the Heart Sutra also it challenges the notion of I to begin with. So
yeah, you're going to be Sushin Bob even after, you know, nuclear war.
I don't know.
You're not going to get off that easy.
Yeah, you're stuck with it, Sushin.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Oh, yes.
Nice try, Sushin. Yeah. Any other thoughts or contributions? Or
I'm just reminded, based on what Susan just said, about how my coming from Chicago to Pueblo has been so much about making the transition from doing to being. And being has not been as smooth and easy as I had hoped or expected. And it, you know, it just, I've been reminded over and over and over again to what I cling and how I can shift some of that energy. And so then we have this as a massive shake-up reminder of that. I mean, I could never have imagined the importance of still just being in this world and continuing to be in the face of all this loss, you know. And it's a profound time of learning for me, and I suspect for all of you, in many other unexpected ways. So it's a grace.
Yeah, well said. Yeah.
Well, I heard in what Jayun said an invitation to engage a koa out of these comments. And the one that was triggered for me, particularly by Samsu's comment, is what if there were no time? You know, the past is past, that's not now. The future's not here yet. And of course, what we did in the past affects now, what we do now affects the future, but neither the past nor the future are here. There's only now.
I think Sunim says there is no past, there is no future, there isn't even a present.
Isn't even a present. Wow. Well, that blows my mind.
Yes, he does that.
Yeah. No knowledge, no realization, no attainment. Yeah.
I find myself in all of my normal coping mechanisms just don't apply anymore. And I've seen myself over the weeks kind of, you know, dabbling in different coping mechanisms, and I live alone and none of those are working. And so I like going back to practice and looking at this and trying to reframe how am I going to respond to the suffering, the emerging sadness and grief, or I mean, walking into the grocery store is this immense emotional experience. I feel it from everyone. And though I manage it inside of the grocery store, then I find myself an hour later overwhelmed by like, what was that, right? And so none of my normal experiences and normal responses, good or bad, are working. And I really like what Jones brought up of how to practice this as a koan, how to choose some of those things. Well, what if you remove one of those senses, and then what else do you discover, and what else can that open up for you?
This is perhaps related to that, but it seems to me that you know, there is a level of interaction that you can have with people in the grocery store and people on the street when you're not violating social distancing. You know, you can still smile, and people respond by scowling.
Yeah.
It's this sort of level of distrust and hostility, and I understand that there's a certain fear of transmission, but that doesn't mean we have to scowl at each other. So I guess I hope we can not let that take us over.
Good point.
Thinking about rereading Albert Camus' The Plague.
Yes.
In French?
No.
Well, there would go 3 months of solitude.
Or therapy, yeah.
I think what's also, and thanks, Kosa, for bringing that up, because I also find that really unsettling when we take walks and people glare at you, and it's like, I could still smile at you from across the street. Like, this is not, that it seems to be infectious, the fear, right? And how do we, and I guess, what's the dishwashing liquid to use against that fear? And I just also wanted to say, yeah, Jayun, your comment about the hearing and the smelling, what's also fun to do in Koani is to almost try to induce, like, I guess the technical word is synesthesia. So sometimes during retreats, often I'll be able to say, like, oh, what is cold, right? Oh, cold is actually
Yellow.
tingling, or it's, do you see what I mean? Like to take an emotion and kind of try to unpack it, and like the cloud, actually, the cloud image is so perfect, right? To look at those emotions and be like, oh, this feels like, oh, I'm angry, but like, what if we look really closely at the anger? Where are the edges of that anger? And what is the anger made up of? And what are the droplets in the anger? And oh, there's some sadness in there, and there's some fear in there, and there's just some, I'm hungry, or there's, or it feels like this, or this is the color of it, or this is, you know what I mean? Like that can be a kind of interesting practice. Yeah.
One thing I think that people can do, if it, Kosa was talking about just being able to smile at people. One of our dear friends here in the neighborhood, it was a stroke of genius. He has a full head to toe duck costume, like full. And she and her husband will go for a walk, just a neighborhood stroll, and she's in the duck costume. It is absolute genius. And, one of the things we could all do, whether it's just you wear the silliest hat you can find, or you just get some of the, nose and glasses things, just go for a walk, just to kind of burst the soap bubbles a little bit, in a lighthearted way. I think that can go a long way.
I feel like we've been so stripped away. Like, things have become so basic in some ways. Like, we're so
Lost our sense of humor. Yeah.
Yeah, we're so cut off from each other physically now. And that's all I can do, like, is to just try to be creative. I'm making a lot of masks. I'm sewing a lot of masks. I made this crazy cake with a Corona goofy image on it. I mean, it's all I can do. I just feel so like, you know, um, like life has just gotten down to very basic things now.
Yeah.
And so, like, when you're looking at a tree that has no leaves on it in the middle of winter, you're seeing the very essence of the tree. And that's a beautiful thing, and it's a really scary thing. I have a lot more time. That's a beautiful thing, and that's a scary thing. And so I just have to figure out where I'm at in that feeling.
Yeah.
Move.
And I think, yeah, that's oh, sorry, just really briefly, that's why I brought up the small bowl image, right? And the overflowing of the bowl, because I think that might be helpful, because I think all of our bowls are so much tinier than they are, and to see it as an opportunity for gratefulness, or yeah. Jayun, sorry about that.
Okay, there's a Rob Fetters lyric that I really like, and it's fear is never boring. You know.
Thank you.
thinking about walking, and I've watched the progression of how a walk down the street has changed. And there was a day when I was approaching a woman with a small child, she's toddler, 3, 4, whatever. And I could tell from very far away, several houses down, she was starting to get nervous of like, well, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? We're approaching another person. And I moved out to the street and I started, and she eased up, and I thought, well, that was really a nice, beautiful, magic moment, because she was put at ease and felt better, and the problem was solved. And I've noticed just in the last week that's begun to occur more. Farther down the road, I see somebody walking a dog, and they move out or across the street, and I see these moments of they're actually really quite beautiful moments of kindness and subtlety. And then I've tried some moments of less subtlety. If I see a post person, somebody delivering something, I yell out to them, "Thanks for serving." And sometimes that breaking of that silent distance helps sort of wake people up into a new place. And I think it's a great opportunity to just kind of continue to explore how do we do this with kindness, and how do we also at the same time sort of recognize that our pain and suffering is sometimes bleeding onto somebody else, and just how to manage it and how to work with it. I'm fascinated by it and exhausted by it at the same time.
It's good to hear some ideas about how we do that, how we can break through. Good reminders.
Well, it's noon. I just thank you all, and we can continue very much the discussion next week. I'm wondering what we should talk about next week, because there's a lot. It will be, sort of marinating in the sanghas and the concept of emptiness and the dharmas, right? All of the form, feeling, thought, impulse, consciousness, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. That's all related to the skandhas, right, Samsu, that you sort of downloaded with us before. All of that is so I don't know. Do we want to talk? Does somebody want to dig a little bit into no birth, no death? Since there's no old age and death nor extinction of them, does anybody feel in the mood to just nose around commentaries? Yeah, does that make sense? The no ignorance nor extinction of ignorance, no old age and death nor extinction of them. Are we okay with skipping down to those 2 lines and have somebody maybe dig a little bit into those? Any volunteers? Voluntold if you're not.
I can do it.
Samba? Okay, great. Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, those 2, right? Just those 2 lines. The no ignorance nor extinction of ignorance, no old age or death nor extinction of them. And then, again, and let me know also, I have a stack of commentaries. I mean, they're kind of all over the place. Like you'll probably find between the internet and the Red Pine, you'll find stuff. But if you want more, I can try to figure out how I can take a picture with my phone and send it to you or something like that of that page. So let us know if you get stuck or need more fuel for the fire. So that would be great. Thank you. And once again, just a reminder, 6 a.m., 11:45 a.m., and 6:30 p.m. The Oche and Sabaha show at the temple of joining in with the meditation. It's just really, it's once again a really lovely way. I'm actually personally kind of surprised at how effective virtual meditation is, that it's still meditation. I think I kind of felt like it was and I think after the first meditation class, I was just like, oh my gosh, I feel like I just meditated, which we did, but I thought it would be a lot worse, I guess, than it is. It's actually really lovely. And once you get used to it, we're all getting used to new things. So very much feel free to join them at this link, right? Or it's the link, if you don't have the link, let us know. We can get you the link. And then there's the Ann Arbor service at 9 a.m. on Sundays, and then this at 10:30. It's so wonderful to see all of you. And we're cobbling together a kind of, I feel like, the Saturday Night Live last night, I don't know, we saw the beginning and then fell asleep, but I'm going to do kind of the same thing with Buddha's birthday and have a Zoomy Buddha's birthday and all Sangha on deck Buddha's birthday. So Sushim is the guy to contact if you have a musical, something you would like to do, or some sort of performance or anything like that. And then if you're interested in reading a Dharma passage as part of the Sunday night service, get in touch with me. We have little forms. Yeah. And so, so stay tuned for that. We're gonna make it work. Hopefully we'll get people from our Mexico Sangha to read or play, and Toronto and New York and Ann Arbor, and then some of those guys out in California, get them. So you might see some wonderful, and then some of you, right, Nadeji, if you're interested in participating, let me know. It's just really, really lovely. It's great to have Nalanda back on the screen. Moja, it's really wonderful to see you. It's great to see absolutely everybody, but especially the people who are separated by us from distance, that this is a wonderful illustration that this can also be an opportunity to reconnect, and it's just really lovely. So the people who can't physically be here, be in Chicago, are touching base. So it's really lovely to see all of you. And yeah, I hope to see you again next week. And again, feel free to email the temple or any of us if you want to be in touch. So let's 4 great vows and go into the 10 directions. So all beings one body, I vow to liberate. Blind passions one root, I vow to terminate. Dharma gates one mind, I vow to penetrate. The great way of Buddha, I vow to realize. And thank you again, Jayun. That was really so lovely. It was just so good to see everybody. Yay.
I'm hugging.
Thank you.
Hugging, I know. We need a new, hug ourselves.
Yes, hug you all. Thank you.
Exactly.
Great to see everyone.
Have a great
Very
day.
good.